Alright, so I'm making this video right now. This is going to be a demonstration of, so this is going to be about hypnosis and abuse, right? Of course, right? Anyways, the people that abused me didn't try to help me with hypnosis, they abused me. So, um, they're trying to inhibit me, they're also trying to prevent me from also, not just inhibit me, they're trying to prevent me from being able to finish things in detail. They're trying to also make me look bad in any possible way, shape, or form. Which is how they manipulate the hypnosis, but it doesn't exactly always work out, especially when I point it out. And then, let's see. Oh, also trying to prevent me from the habit of making videos or wasting my time recording videos, and also trying to simultaneously make me appear to be mentally ill while I'm making videos. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. And let's see. So this is about. I was discussing in some other videos. It was about Euphoria and hypnotic alterations in voice. So, um, uh, because it did involve some sexual manipulation as well. Obviously, sex has shown profound reason and evidence that it could be manipulated through common sense, right? It's not difficult to tell from, I'll get started with reading, right? Because I was talking about, say, for example, how there were allegations, supposed allegations, that were made regarding, hold on a second. I want to go ahead and elaborate here. So I used to have PTSD, and I used to hyperventilate for 3 hours at a time, 3 times a day from PTSD. And, right, and I mean, of course, PTSD is a reaction. Hyperventilation and PTSD are typically going to elicit like a response of fear, right? Stimulate fight or flight. And it's not exactly very, it's not a sexually driven behavior. Um, at least not in the context that I'm describing, as well as, well, the hypnosis is really inhibiting me from talking right now. So, anyways, I'm being abused with hypnosis, as you can tell, because I was talking about how I used to hyperventilate, and it's not exactly a very attractive type of behavior, right? So, based off of that context, let's see. They told me that the hyperventilating, when they hypnotized me, they told me that the hyperventilating was not sexy and that I needed to be sexier, which was why I was hypnotized to change my voice. But it was actually a method to try to attempt to convince me that I didn't need my medications. Try to keep me from thinking with my mind so much by distracting me by thinking about sex, right? So, that's what they try to do, at least. And, alright, so moving on here. Let's see. I'll go ahead and elaborate. Alright, this is just something that is not normal, right? And, so, there's this girl that I was talking to. She, I would call her and I would be like, about because sometimes I'd have PTSD and I would need somebody to help me calm down and try to settle my anxiety and everything along those lines. And when I would call her hyperventilating, she started like moaning and it definitely served as a distraction. Um, it was very effective for distracting from the situation, distracting from the anxiety, but it wasn't necessarily productive, right? It was time consuming, but it wasn't productive. Obviously, it only had, not exactly very long lasting effects either, right? And, it wasn't like a medication, of course, right? And of course, it also was not a productive behavior in terms of working on the project that I was trying to work on, as well as even filling out apartment applications, as an example. So what ended up happening... Wow, the hypnosis is really being used to abuse me right now. What ended up happening... yeah, she'd start moaning, like as if she was hypnotized and cued to moan when I would start hyperventilating. And, wow, okay, so the hypnosis really inhibited me from being able to finish, because I set a timer for like 7 minutes. But anyways, moving on, let's see here. There was a lot to do with that, right? But, I was also hypnotized to talk in like a tired voice, right? And that I was supposed to be sexy and everything along those lines. And, anyways, like, wow, the hypnosis is really being used to abuse me right now. I can't even talk. Anyways, so, I was hypnotized too, right? And I found out that the reason that this was done was to distract me so that I wouldn't be able to fill out apartment applications. So that I could be abused without knowing it, to instill a false sense of security and safety and trust, right? So that I wouldn't understand how much danger, or be able to comprehend how much danger I was in. As well as separating from my friends and family. And then, let's see. So there's that, and then, let's see. I was trying to talk here. Naturally, sex is often used to manipulate others, from eliciting prostitution for money to advertisements, or to elicit a variety of other behaviors or favors due to the naturally manipulative behaviors associated with sex. The experimentation of sexual activity on behavior for manipulation. Hold on just a second. Sorry about that. I apologize again. So, sorry about that. Wow, okay, that's getting really irritating. So, let's see, I'm going to set this for 3 minutes. Regardless of such, right? Naturally, sex is often used to manipulate others, from eliciting prostitution for money to advertisements, or to elicit a variety of other behaviors or favors. Due to the naturally manipulative behaviors associated with sex, the experimentation of sexual activity on behavior for manipulation. And this is where, like, I was unable to finish my sentence because of the hypnosis. So abusive. So abusive. So abusive. So abusive. So I'm pointing that out there. Also, I wanted to point out there is a video that I have, Hypnosis, Abuse and Speech Inhibition, where I specify the methods and techniques that they use to abuse me and inhibit my ability to speak. So I'm pointing that out as well. Please make sure to watch that video, because you'll probably be able to see what I'm talking about. And moving on. Let's see. So I'm also going to post a link. I'll specify the link. It's called it was vid attempt 33. It was a really severe example of hypnotic speech inhibition. I will list it as really severe example of hypnotic speech inhibition in the description for this video, just so you can see what I'm talking about. As a very clear and clear, easy to see example, because I'm not able to say the word inhibited or hypnosis, at least not immediately. But I did record it, so of course, that's kind of the aspect of where I have to record things. And I talk about that in the video, Hypnosis, Abuse, and Speech Inhibition. I'll leave both those links in the description. Let's see. So what I'm trying to say here, right, because I was talking earlier about how, in MK Ultra there were some so MK Ultra was an actual government experiment, right? And there were a lot of questions regarding the this is where the hypnosis is inhibiting my ability to speak again. This is where so there were a lot of questions regarding the ethics of the experimentation, and a lot of allegations of hypnosis being used, and also LSD. And even also experimenting on individuals unknowingly. Like, these are some of the allegations, although they're I I haven't seen actual any direct admissions to this from the CIA as of yet, at least. But regardless, right? So, and I mean, like they do admit to it, right? That they experimented with LSD for interrogations. So, of course, they have the credibility in that aspect, and the experimentee or some of the people that claimed to be experimentees in the experiment claimed that LSD was being used, and that they were being like without their that they were dosed with LSD without their knowledge or consent, for experiments, and they observed their behavior under the influence of the drug, and also even did experiments on sexual behavior with LSD. Um, these are some of the allegations, or there are also some allegations like stating that they were observed having sex while on LSD without consent or knowledge, and then also that there were allegations that some of the CIA agents were even getting pleasure from it, from watching them, and that I think there were also some claims, and this is the thing, like where if like and this is very actually logical as well, if you think about it, because with an experiment, right? Well, I mean, and with sexual activity, right? Well, I mean, since pornography is a very real thing, well, considering that aspect, it is definitely possible. It's not impossible. So if there were experiments conducted like that, well, um, it wouldn't just be done for sexual pleasure. That's not exactly very logical or rational to suspect the government to do, right? So so even just making the accusation that they were getting sexual pleasure from it would take away credibility, even if even if the resource, the individual making the claim, was reliable, um, and valid in their claim. Now, I'm going to go ahead and specify here, right, that this is something that is. I was trying to clarify. The hypnosis is inhibiting me so much. Can you see it? The hypnosis is really inhibiting me because that stuttering, the talking slowly, everything. That's the hypnosis. So what I'm trying to say is the reasoning for the experiment is what they need to indicate, right? In order for people to understand, like, oh, okay, so this was, they did this specifically to see, as an experiment, right? Like, what are they trying to see, right? Because, like, say, for example, if, you made claims that the CIA was doing experiments with LSD, and you didn't state the reason for why, right? Well, I mean, where's their credibility going to come from? What would the reason be? And a lot of the times, the people in these experiments, if they didn't have the knowledge, if they were unaware and did not consent to it, then they most likely didn't know in the first place. Unfortunately, right? Another method of preventing them from having credibility, because it sounds far-fetched, sounds impossible. And, of course, stating reasoning for why provides a lot of understanding. So, this was done to isolate me from my family and friends because of political activity, and also medical malpractice, and to keep me from getting publicity. It is definitely very complicated. Although, like I got threatened for making petitions and everything along those lines. So, I mean, that's not something that's very normal. But, I mean, if, say, for example, like really trying to address all the, like, real issues out there in the world and actually trying to fix problems, would, like, wow, the hypnosis is inhibiting me from talking right now, would instigate this, could, like, instigate a form of retaliation if it were to impede or interfere with somebody else's, desires or motivations, right? Say, for example, businesses, large example, right? a lot of people have claimed that marijuana is illegal due to pharmaceutical companies making more money, um, because marijuana would not be profited from like by pharmaceutical companies necessarily. And I mean, it's not impossible for pharmaceutical companies to start farming it either, but for like hospitals and everything along those lines. But at the same time, they're not going to be the main profiteers most likely, right? Especially if there's going to be other industries that will utilize the plant, from the hemp industry or for recreational purposes. So then this could be done just by normal everyday farmers. It wouldn't have to be done by like pharmaceutical company, and it could be grown so that people could grow their own medicine. But and like that's an example of a motivation, right? Because that's a lot of money involved in the pharmaceutical industry, right? Several $billions. Might even be more than that, but regardless, also even fossil fuels, right? Because we're kind of using too many of those. We need to start using more renewable energy. That's something I got threatened for because I was the type of person that's like, well, I mean, where it's better to be responsible and to start making the changes now instead of waiting until it's too late, right? So I mean, we could wait 20 years, 30 years from now, and then like, we are not able to utilize. We have to like rapidly, and then have to rapidly cut down all of our fossil fuel resources instead of being able to do this gradually, right? I mean, we can go ahead and just do this in a reasonable measures and to reasonable extents. Like we don't have to like, but I mean, it is wise and of course rational and logical to start immediately. We should not be prolonging this anymore. It's an inevitability. Also, because the only way we're going to be able to do this is on a global aspect, right? So we need to cooperate and we need to at least work together in that aspect, just for environmental preservation and also to preserve the fossil fuel resources, so that we don't just run out completely for future generations, right? Because I mean, say for example, even my children could be dead before we run out of coal, but my grandchildren would probably still be alive. So I mean, you kind of have an idea, right? I mean, it's something that like I wanted to make some changes that would go down in like history, right? Like make changes for that would last hundreds of years, literally, kind of like the founding fathers. That's where I got the ideas from. And then, anyways, moving on. Sorry, the hypnosis. Trying to finish. So the experimentation of sexual activity on behavior for manipulation would be initiated if they could see some type of use for it, right? Because I mean that's kind of like what I'm describing here is let's see. I also remember so when this was happening, they like the explanation that I provided, right? Of they told me that the hyperventilating was not sexy and that I needed to be sexier, which was why I was hypnotized to change my voice, which was a method to convince me I didn't need my meds. Well, I mean, that did not provide very much logical reasoning, but it was enough to prevent me from becoming too suspicious about it. You know what I mean? Like, because that's not normal. It's not normal at all. So, like, very confusing, indirect, and not specific, but were sufficient to prevent suspicion. Let me see. It also had to do with, I talked about needing my meds too, right? But, let's see. I was also hypnotized to, speak like in a tired voice that was supposed to make me sexier and everything along those lines. Blah, blah, blah. Listening to music. kind of more of a distraction there as well, but regardless, so, I mean, oh, that's right, the reasonings. That's what I was trying to get to, and the hypnosis made me take 20 minutes to do it. But, since I'm getting abused so much, right, we're going to go ahead and do this. Separating me from, oh, that's right, to separate me from my friends and family, and that, so it would distract me long enough for me to run out of money, when I got approved for disability income, so that I would spend all my money on motels and become homeless because I wouldn't be able to afford a deposit. Because I had $20,000 from back pay, from Social Security income, and in order to discredit me and make me look like a homeless person, they needed me to be a homeless person. And I was also hypnotized. They told me that they were going to take me to the laundromat. They hypnotized me to feel dizzy, disoriented, confused, to experience memory loss, dysphoria, nausea, and a variety of other unpleasant and inhibiting post-hypnotic suggestions to whenever I tried to fill out apartment applications. And they hypnotized me to feel like my brain was going through a washing machine on the spin cycle, turning to mush, and then told me that they were doing this to me because they were, quote, brainwashing me. Now, if I didn't finish this in the other videos that I was talking about, this would be the reason why. Because it's an incomplete metaphor, I also wanted to specify, they told me that they were doing this to me because they were, quote, brainwashing me, right? Anyways, but, like, as an example, so, kind of distracting from the purpose, right? Because, they did that to make me homeless, but they used a metaphor to do it. So then, it would distract me from what they were intending to do. And then, let's see. So, this was also to instill false feelings of security, sense of, false feelings of, not necessarily that I wouldn't be able to, feel secure or trusted or, safe with her specifically, but, because I would feel those feelings with her, right? Well, basically that would mean that I would, feel those feelings when I honestly should not be feeling those feelings because I was in immediate danger. So, that's the situation there. Now, moving on. Wow, the hypnosis is really being used to abuse me. The hypnosis is really being used to abuse me. The hypnosis is really being used to abuse me. The experimentation of sexual activity on behavior for manipulation. That's what I was talking about, because I specified some very legitimate reasons to do this, right? They accomplish very specific things doing that. Breaking me a lot of habits, right, that I used to use to cope. And distracting me, making me feel safer or something along those lines, and then also making me feel as if I needed to move out to New York and have her help me fill out apartment applications, and then they said I was hypnotized to become separated from her and everything along those lines. Regardless, blah blah blah. Wow, the hypnosis is really being used to abuse me right now. It's been 23 minutes. The hypnosis is being used to abuse me. So, I haven't written this yet. I haven't written anything. Hypnosis is so abusive, right? Can you see it? Because, I'm not, I was also hypnotized to become angry when I resisted post-hypnotic suggestions, such as pointing out when the hypnosis was being used to abuse me. So if you can see the sudden change in my tone of voice and facial expressions and everything along those lines, you can see that, my behavior is kind of not exactly completely normal because I'm under the influence of hypnosis and I'm being abused. And, that's why I would start becoming so angry when I would talk about, hypnosis being used to abuse me, to try to discredit me, because they hypnotized me, and that's what they wanted to do with it. So, moving on, right, naturally, sex is often used to manipulate others, from eliciting prostitution for money to advertisements or to elicit a variety of other behaviors or favors. Due to the naturally manipulative behaviors associated with sex, the experimentation of sexual activity or on behavior for manipulation would be initiated, right? I'm talking about also in, the experiments that I was referencing, right? Because if they saw motivation, reason for it, right, use for it, if they could manipulate it and control it and use it to abuse somebody. Because that's what they did to me with it. Manipulation. Wow, I just had the thought in my mind and it's repressed from my memory. And I noticed I started to get angry and then I stopped. So pointing that out in the video as well. I do enjoy pointing out the post-hypnotic suggestions because I'm getting evidence of it. And I hope that freaks people out because it really should be. So, anyways, wow, the hypnosis is inhibiting me right now. I had a thought in my head, and the hypnosis is inhibiting me from being able to say it. It's already been 26 minutes. It's almost going to be another video. The hypnosis is inhibiting me. The hypnosis is inhibiting me. The hypnosis is inhibiting me. This is so abusive. This is so abusive. I also have the other video. That's part 1. I'm going to do part 3. This is going to be part 2. So I'm going to end the video now. Thanks for watching the video.